Hi everybody, it's Thomas here from Thomas Fitzgerald Photography. Welcome back to the channel, and today we're looking at a brand new release of Lightroom that's just dropped, and that is Lightroom Classic 15.2. So this is mostly a kind of a under the hood bug fix release. There are a couple of new features though, and we're going to take a quick look at those, and we'll also take a look at Lightroom Desktop because there's one new feature in that too that's not in Lightroom Classic. But first, Lightroom Classic. So what's new in this release? Well, they've improved the model use for the assisted culling feature. They've added WebP support, and they've also added a function that allows you to edit your image directly in Firefly with AI. I'm guessing that last one's going to be a teeny bit controversial, and we will get to that in a minute. But first, let's have a look at the assisted culling. This is one of those features that I don't really use because, to be honest, when it first came out, I didn't think it was very good. There was lots of false positives and, more importantly, false negatives. So the idea behind assisted culling is your AI will take a first pass at the images for you, and it can like reject things that are out of focus or if eyes are closed and stuff like that. So in the new version, the improvements are basically aimed at group photos and improving the results there. I don't really have that kind of photo. I don't really shoot people that much, and I certainly don't shoot groups of people, so unfortunately I can't really test this. So we'll just have to take their word for it. However, if this is something that you shoot a lot and you have got around to testing this since this came out, please let us know in the comments below if you have seen any improvements or not. So the next feature is they've added WebP support, so you can now edit WebP images in Lightroom. I guess if you had maybe uploaded your image somewhere and then you lost the original and you wanted to re-download it and work with it, so I guess in that case it's a good function. Okay, so the big one, oh, this is going to be bad. Okay, so here we have an image, and you can now send your image directly to Adobe Firefly and use Firefly to edit your image with AI. So it gives you two options. You can generate using Firefly. You can use it to edit the photo, or you can generate video from the image. So in this case, let's see what happens if we try to generate video from the image. So I'm going to hit generate video, and it will open it in Firefly. And you can see it's loaded the images, and you just enter your prompt. Okay, fairly straightforward. So let's select a model, video 3.1, and that's set at 1080p. The different models will give you different options. In this case, you can only do 24 frames a second. Here in PAL land, I would prefer to do that in 25 frames a second, but it can't. But let's see what happens. You can also give it a last image, so you can get it to transition between two images, but I'm just going to do it with the one. So do slow zoom in across the lake. Should be fairly straightforward. Let's see what happens. Off it goes. Do 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 do. Okay, we have our video generated, and so while it is sort of doing what we asked, the quality is kind of terrible. Let's try something else and see if we can get a good result. Let me see. Okay, let's try this one. Here's one of the images we used in the last video. So let me again generate with Firefly, generate video from image, and off it goes again. Okay, so it has loaded the video, and let's say, okay, I'm going to try a different model. We're using Ray 3.14 and 1080p, and it's going to do 5 seconds. So let's hit generate, and off it goes. I'm using up all my credits just for you. Okay, so it's finished. Let's have a look at our result, and it's not too bad, but I can see a couple of issues. First up, that's not a slow zoom in. That's a ban. And secondly, it's in slow motion, even though I said don't do it in slow motion. And finally, there's a weird kind of texture over everything. Hi, Future Thomas here. While I was editing this video, I realized that when I had done this previous example, I had kind of missed something, and that was I still had grain attached to the image. So I ran it again, I turned grain off, and I tried to make a much more involved prompt, which frankly is starting to get a bit ridiculous, but I know somebody out there will be going, oh, you're prompting it wrong, that's why you're not getting good results. So this was what the result was. It is better. We don't have that kind of weird texture over it. There's still a little bit of it there, but it's definitely better. However, as you can see, it still is not adhering to the instructions because it's still panning, even though I'm telling it not to pan. Anyway. Okay, so I'm not wasting any more time on this. Let's go back and try the other feature. Okay, so let's see what happens if we edit this image. This time we're going to do the edit photo function and see what happens. Okay, so for prompt, make it sunset and add some clouds and some birds. Okay, that seems like a reasonable request. And away we go. Okay, so again, as with all things AI, we have a couple of major problems here. And first of all, it's a completely different image. But I mean, it did what we asked. Okay, like everything with AI, trying to get it to do exactly what you tell it to is like trying to negotiate with a toddler. Okay, so just to be fair, I did actually run this again, and this time in the prompt I specified do not change the angle of the ship or the camera angle, and it did actually give me the same ship. At least that. I just wanted to add this just to be fair, so take from that what you will. Okay, so moving over to Lightroom Desktop or Lightroom Cloud or Lightroom Mac and PC, whatever you want to call it. So what they've added in Lightroom Desktop is they also have the edit in Firefly thing. They have assisted culling improvements, so same as Lightroom Desktop, but they also have generative upscale with Topaz Gigapixel, which is something that is not in Lightroom Classic. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so here I have a photo that I shot in Berlin last year. It is of the famous TV tower, and as you can see, there's plenty of detail here. This is shot on my Fuji X-E4, so it's a 24 megapixel. Nope, sorry, it's 26 megapixel. So if I wanted to up-res this, say I needed to print it really large, up to now your basic options are super resolution, and if I zoom in, the results actually aren't bad at all. So that is Adobe's own upscaler super resolution, but let me just turn that back off. Okay, and now I'm going to go photo, generative upscale, and let's use the 2x because that will give me more or less the same as super resolution. Okay, so upscale, and it's doing it. Bear in mind this will also use your AI generative credits. Gotta get those credits. So straight up, if you've been following along, you can see one of the major problems with this, and that is it takes forever. Okay, so that has done its thing, and it's loaded here back into Lightroom. Let's have a look. Let's zoom in, and you know what? It's actually not bad. It's a little bit more kind of messy up here. Let's do a comparison. So I'm going to jump back over to the original. I'm going to turn back on super resolution. You don't realize this because I'm editing this video, but that is like 10 times faster. Okay, so we have super resolution turned on, and here's our gigapixel version, and then let's do a side by side. Okay, so we have the gigapixel one on the right and the super resolution one on the left, and so the gigapixel one is definitely noticeably sharper. However, in my opinion, it does look a little bit over-processed, whereas the super resolution one is probably a bit more organic and natural looking. However, yeah, you can definitely see that the gigapixel one is sharper. It's one of those things that I'm sure if you went through lots of different images, you'd find that it's definitely better on some and then maybe not quite better on others, but it is definitely an interesting alternative. So yeah, let's just try another image. Let's pick anything. Let me go back to our cloud. Okay, so this is quite an old file. I shot this on the Canon 5D Mark I. Ooh. It's only 12 megapixels, so let's say I wanted to print it on like an A1 poster. Here we go. Photo, generative upscale. This is going to use 20 credits. Upscale away. Who just thought this job would be mostly about waiting? Oh my god, it's so slow. Wake me up when it's done. It's loaded. It's loaded. So let's zoom in. I mean, it's okay. It's very kind of processed. You're probably not really seeing this on the video. It's not too bad. If you added a bit of grain to this, I think it would probably look okay. I mean, it's not terrible. But it does have a very kind of heavily processed look, which, you know, is kind of typical of these kind of up-res situations. Okay, so once again, the Gigapixel one is definitely sharper, but in my opinion, the super resolution one is kind of more natural looking, although it does have kind of blurry artifacts as well, so it's kind of 6 of one and 10 of the other. So I did also test the 4x scaling. So here is an image that I shot on my Nikon D700, and once again this is a 12 megapixel photo, so we're starting off with a low resolution, which is kind of what this is really intended for. And if you scale it with the 4x option, you get a slightly ridiculous 16,000 pixels across. So if I zoom in on this, you can see the results aren't bad. Again, you do get a lot of kind of heavy processing, but I'm not sure how much of this you would see if you actually printed this. And at that resolution, you could print this pretty large. If you look at, say, over here, and let me see if I can find it. So, for example, in the chains here, it looks very kind of AI, smeary, messy details. But again, I'm not sure what that would actually look like printed. So, like, even if I zoomed out to, say, 50%, you can see it's actually not bad. And unfortunately, I don't actually have a printer that can print the size of a wall, so we'll just have to go with it. Editing Thomas here again. One thing I realized about the Gigapixel that didn't really occur to me when I recorded the video was you can actually use this on images where super resolution won't work. So for example, if you would apply denoise to an image, and in Lightroom super resolution won't work with that, so you can still use Gigapixel on it and it will actually work. I think too, maybe for non-raw images, it also probably will give you better results than super resolution, because super resolution seems to work best if you're using a raw image. Okay, so there you have it. There is the new features in this round of Lightroom updates. I hope you have found this useful. As always, please like, share and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. See you next time. Bye.